So today we are going to start the first chapter, language of chemistry. So the name itself says that it is a very basic chapter because it has the information which will help you understand the subject. So chemistry is a branch of science which deals with matter, what it is made up of, what is its nature, what is its structure, how will it behave when the conditions change, when temperature and pressure changes, how does that behave. So all this is studied under this branch of science, chemistry. No matter regarding matter, many researches have been made and experiments have been made, and therein we have zeroed down to one theory that matter is something which occupies space, has mass, can be perceived by senses. Okay, but in chemistry, in the language of chemistry, matter is actually the combination of elements. So it is nothing but a complex relationship between elements. Now, what are elements? So elements are the pure substances. Okay, elements, they are pure substances. Why pure substances? Because they are made up of a similar kind of atoms. So they are made up of one kind of atoms. Okay, if we talk about say any element, sodium. So if we take sodium, it is made up of one kind of atom. It will have the number of protons, number of electrons, neutrons, similar. Fine, so it is an element. Now the elements are made up of atoms. The atoms are the smallest particle present in an element which can take part in a chemical reaction, and it shows all the properties of the element. So if you take an atom of sodium, it will show all the properties of sodium. Sodium is highly reactive. Even one atom of sodium will also be highly reactive. Fine. Now the atoms combine to form molecules. Okay, so the atoms combine to form molecules. Now the number of atoms which combine to form one molecule is called the atomicity of that element. So what is atomicity? Number of atoms that form the molecule. Okay, so if I so there may be different kinds of atomicity. Now monoatomic, mono means one. So in a monoatomic substance, what we'll see, mono means one. So any element whose molecule is formed of only one atom is a monoatomic element. So elements having only one atom in their molecules are called monoatomic. All the inert gases are monoatomic. All the metals are monoatomic. Helium, suppose I take the example, helium, metal. So they are all monoatomic. Now there are elements in which two atoms combine to form one molecule of that particular element. So they are diatomic. Di means two. So two atoms are present in one molecule, like hydrogen, oxygen, chlorine. These are commonly used. Now next, triatomic. Elements which are triatomic. Elements having three atoms in its molecule are triatomic. Tri means three. So example of triatomic is ozone, O3. O2 oxygen, O3 is ozone. So they are triatomic, tetraatomic. Tetra means 4. That means in one molecule of the element there are 4 atoms present. For example, tetraatomic will be phosphorus, P4. Fine. There can be octaatomic. There are 8 atoms in one molecule. That is sulfur, S8. So if they have more than one, actually all of them fall under the category polyatomic. Under polyatomic, there may be diatomic, triatomic, tetraatomic, octaatomic, fine. And this is monoatomic. So this you need to understand because you have to apply it when you are writing the language of chemistry. So what is a molecule? Molecule is the smallest part of an element which can exist independently. So you saw when diatomic, triatomic substances we were talking about, they cannot exist as a single atom, but they can exist independently as a single molecule. Fine. Now atoms of different elements or molecules of different elements, they combine to form compounds in a fixed ratio. So compounds are formed of either atoms of different elements or molecules of different elements but in a fixed ratio and form a molecule of the compound. So you will not get an atom of compound, you will always get molecule, fine, of a compound. Now the naming of the elements. There were 118 elements discovered. So studying about 118 elements is quite difficult if we every time have to name the element in full. So therefore the scientists kept on in early days what they did, they used to represent it by earth, fire, the 5 elements of nature. But later on the thought became more practical, more progressive. So in 1807, John Dalton gave us the figurative symbols which represented one atom of that particular element. So let us study a few examples, right? For oxygen, he chose a circle. For hydrogen, he chose a circle with a dot. For nitrogen, he used a circle with a line across. For sulfur, he used a circle with a plus sign inside. So using these figurative symbols, he represented compounds. If you remember, compounds are a combination of the atoms or molecules of elements. So let us see how we will represent a compound using these symbols. Suppose we start with ammonia. So what is the formula of ammonia? NH3. Nowadays we use like this. But how did John Dalton represent as? N1 is there. So he drew one figure of N. H, how many are there? 3. So he drew the symbol of H on 3 sides. So this was the figure used for representing ammonia. Okay, let us study another example. Say sulfur dioxide. So sulfur dioxide, what is its formula? SO2. So what did he do? He took the sign of sulfur. What is the sign of sulfur? A circle with a plus sign. In the center, an oxygen, a single circle. He drew 2 circles on 2 sides. So this figure shows sulfur dioxide. Okay. The next example, hydrogen sulfide. Hydrogen sulfide. H2S. Okay, so here hydrogen 2 and S is 1. So one atom of S represented by this symbol, 2 atoms of hydrogen on either side, one this side, one on the other side. So this is how hydrogen sulfide was represented. So by using these figures, he represented all the compounds that they knew at that time. But it proved very, very hazardous. It proved very, very confusing, not practical at all. It was a very, very cumbersome process. So therefore, this needs to be modernized. It needed little more work on it. Okay, so what happened next? The symbols are actually the shorthand representation of elements. Okay, so in 1814, Johann Berzelius gave us the concept of giving symbols from the name of the particular element. Okay, so what did he suggest? There were 3-4 things that he suggested, based on which we could give a symbol to a certain element. First thing, to use the first letter. The first letter of the name of the element in capital. For example, carbon, starting with C. The first alphabet is C. So carbon is represented by a capital C. Next, what did he say in case number 2? Suppose the first letter is already utilized, C is utilized, but there is still another element which starts with C. How can we name them? In that case, first letter in capital and second letter in small. So if in that case, like for a calcium, the first letter is utilized, C, so calcium cannot be symbolized with C. So first letter C and the second alphabet A in small is the symbol of calcium. C in capital, A in small. Okay, but still it was seen, even after that, there were some elements which could not be named based on its English names. Okay, maybe the first letter is also utilized, the second letter is also utilized. So how will we name that? So he proposed that such elements can be named by using the initials from their Latin names. Okay, so for example, from Latin names. For example, copper. It couldn't be named C, carbon is there. It couldn't be named CO because CO is the symbol of cobalt, another element. So its name was taken from its Latin name. What is its Latin name? Cuprum. Okay, this is its Latin name. This is its English name. Now from cuprum, if we take C, we cannot represent it by C because C is already used in for carbon. So the second alphabet from cuprum was also taken, Cu. So the symbol of copper that we write uses Cu. So based on this, all the elements were symbolized. The representation was, shorthand representation was formed. So you need to understand the concept and see which are the elements which are based, whose names are based only on its first initial letter. You learn them first. Second, you go and compare, as I showed you the comparative study. Take one element and alphabet and see that this alphabet has been used for this as a single name. Then next elements which starts with the same alphabet, how are they symbolized? Fine. The elements whose name have been taken from their Latin names, they need to be learned separately, and you have to learn even the Latin names. Fine. The spelling is important. When you learn the Latin names, see that you also learn the spellings. Fine. Now that we know how to symbolize an element, let us see what is the significance of these symbols. Okay, so just by seeing the symbol, what are the informations that we come to know? First, we know the name of the element. So now that you know carbon is C, if I say symbol C, you can say the name of the element is carbon. If I say Ca, you'll say the name of the element is calcium. If I say Cu, you'll say the name of the element is copper. So by the symbols, we can very easily say the name of the element. Now we can also say how many atoms are present. Just by seeing the symbol, a symbol represents only one atom of an element. Okay. One atom of an element. If I say Na, how many atoms are there? One atom. If I say Ca, well, how many atoms are there? One atom. Okay. Another thing that we can we come to know by seeing the symbol is that it represents actually the atomic mass. It also shows the definite mass of the element. Now the atomic mass is expressed in grams. So that can also be found out just by seeing the element. So it gives us the mass of one atom of an element. For example, let us study the symbol N. So the N symbol, the name nitrogen, isn't it? And how many atoms are there here? One atom is there. And the mass of nitrogen is 14. So what is the atomic mass? 14 grams. You just have to add the unit grams with the atomic with the mass of an atom. Okay. So this is, we'll learn more about it later. 14 grams. So all this we come to know by just seeing the symbol. Right? After we have cleared our concept about symbols, next that we need to know is formula. So atoms combine to form molecules. Now these molecules are represented by the symbols of the constituent atoms. Fine. Now one molecule may contain, may be made up of similar kind of atoms, like oxygen, O2. Two atoms make one molecule of oxygen, but it is the combination of similar kinds of atoms. Or it may be a combination of different atoms of different elements, which the case where it forms compounds. So compounds are formed by combination of atoms of different elements. There also the molecular formula represents one molecule, combining the symbols of the constituent elements. So it is also called molecular formula or chemical formula. This is the symbolic representation of a molecule, either made up of similar kind of atoms or made up of different kinds of atoms. For example, so it is also called molecular formula because it is representing a molecule, or it may be called the chemical formula because when we use it in chemical equations, we use this form of representing the molecules. Okay, so in the first case, when the molecules are made up of similar kind of atoms, like like in the case of hydrogen or oxygen. Okay, so hydrogen, one hydrogen plus another atom of hydrogen is making one molecule of hydrogen. In one molecule of hydrogen there are two atoms. So this 2 is for the number of atoms. The number in front shows the number of molecules. So if this is given, what you can write? It is one molecule of hydrogen made up of two atoms of hydrogen. Okay, now in the second case, when it is made up of different kinds of atoms, like if you take NaCl. NaCl is a compound, sodium chloride. So it is made up of two elements, sodium and chlorine, and it is represented by the molecular formula Na and Cl. Okay, now this total forms how many molecules? What number is there in front? Nothing is there means 1. So this shows one molecule of sodium chloride. Okay, what is the significance of molecular formula? First, the significance is first, it gives both the molecule and the molecular mass of the compound. If it is made up of different atoms, it tells us how many atoms of each element have combined to form that molecule of the compound. It also tells us the ratios of the respective masses of the different atoms that combine to form the molecule of the compound. So let us study this with an example. Okay, let us take the example of carbon dioxide. So if you take the formula carbon dioxide, so we can say the molecular formula. What is the molecular formula? Carbon dioxide. So how many carbons are there? One atom of carbon. How many oxygen atoms are there? Two atoms. Okay, we can find out this. Now we can also find out the molecular ratio of the molecular mass. Carbon dioxide, if you calculate, is equal to 44 grams. Here carbon is 12, oxygen is 16 into 2 grams. So if we calculate, we can get the ratio of the molecular masses of the element, or the atoms of the element combining to form the molecule of the compound. Valency is the next term that we need to understand. Valency is actually the combining capacity of an element. So this valency can also be measured in a comparative way, like how many atoms of that particular element are required to combine with hydrogen atom. So that becomes the valency of that element. Okay, like for H2O. So how many hydrogen atoms are required with oxygen? 2. So the valency of oxygen is 2. Fine. So in this way, valency can be measured by comparing it with the capacity of combining with hydrogen atoms. But in modern times, valency is defined as the number of electrons gained, lost, or shared by an atom in a chemical reaction. So what happens when a chemical reaction takes place? The atoms combine with other atoms of other elements, and the combining capacity depends on the number of electrons it needs to gain, or it needs to lose, or sometimes there is sharing of electrons. So that number is said to be the valency of that particular element. Okay, now if there is gaining of electrons, that means negative charge is being taken in, so that becomes a negative valency. For example, chlorine, its atomic number is 17. If we configure 287, right, so it needs one electron to complete its octet. So chlorine atom will gain one electron to complete its octet, but in that phenomena it will also gain a negative charge. So it has a valency of -1. So chlorine has a negative valency. It is seen all non-metals have negative valency. Now if we talk about Na, sodium atomic number 11. If we configure it 281, right, so it can gain stability by giving away this one electron. So sodium atom will lose one electron to gain stability, and in that process will gain a positive charge as it is losing one negative particle from the atom. So its valency is positive. Fine. So negatively charged these ions that they form are called anions. Positively charged ions with positive valency are called cations also. I just linked the terms for you to remember for later processes. Okay. Now atoms can also have variable valency. Some elements have variable valency, that is they have more than one valency, like copper, iron, gold, tin, silver. So it is because it also loses electron from its penultimate shell, that is the second last shell. The outermost shell is called the valence shell. The shell just inside it, the next to it, is called the penultimate shell. Fine. Like here, this is the valence shell and this will be in the penultimate shell. So they show variable valency in cases of few elements. Fine. That you need to learn which elements have variable valency and what are their valencies. So we can find out valency in normal cases by configuring them and minusing it with 8, and when the element has more than 4 electrons in its outermost shell, you just minus it from 8 and you get to know what is its valency. And here, whatever, if it is less than 4, then whatever number is there in the valence shell is actually equal to the valency of the atoms. Okay. Now positive valency is normally seen in metals. Okay. Inert gases have no valency because they do not react with other elements. They already have a stable configuration. Now radicals. The molecule of a compound is actually made up of two parts, okay, called radicals. So if we take the example of, suppose, KCl, potassium chloride. Okay, so here it is formed of two radicals. One is a positive radical, another is a negative radical. So the positive radical is also called the basic radical. Why? Because it is formed from bases. Here KOH, potassium hydroxide, is a base from which this basic radical K have come and form the salt. Now Cl is the negative radical, which is called acid radical. This is called acid radical. Why? Because it has been got from an acid. Now which acid in this case? HCl, hydrochloric acid. Okay. Now what is a radical? A radical is an atom or a group of atoms of the same or of different elements that behaves as a single unit. So it can be an one atom or groups of atom behaving as one and carries a valency, either positive or negative. Here the radicals that I talked about: K, potassium, and Cl, chlorine. Both are made of only one kind of atoms. Okay, so they are called simple radicals. These are simple radicals. Now sometimes radicals are made up of two different kind of atoms, like suppose for example sulfate. So it is made up of sulfur and oxygen. But they behave as one and has the valency of -2. So it is a radical. This is called a compound radical. Why? Because it is made up of two different elements behaving as one with a valency, positive or negative valency. So this is also a radical. I will also give an example of another radical, NH4, ammonium. This is a radical which has a positive valency. Okay, so this is also a compound radical. Fine. Now if they have a positive radical, it is a basic radical. If they have a negative charge, then it is an acid radical. Clear? And just link your knowledge. See, the basic radical also has positive charge. Okay. And it is also forming cation. So it is an electropositive element and it forms cations. Right? Positively charged ions. Now chlorine, it has a negative charge, that means it is an electronegative element and it forms anions, negatively charged ions. Fine.